And so it came to pass that in times gone by the mighty hero Avenger found himself ensnared in the webs of the great spider Nulak. It would not end like this, however, for the pieces were arranged on the board for one final showdown between the representatives of the many gods of Orb themselves. This then shall be the final confrontation, and all hangs in the balance for good or ill. A battle that goes beyond the physical and into the spiritual realm, a harrowing experience from which few shall escape unscathed, and yet one endures, one upon whom our hopes hang. He is Avenger. He is Ninja. I am Ninja. My parents are the heaven and the earth. My home is my body. My power is loyalty. My magic is training. My life and my death is breathing. My body is control. My eyes are the sun and the moon. My ears are sensitivity. My laws are self-protection. My strength is adaptability. My ambition is taking every opportunity with fullness. My friend is my mind. My enemy is carelessness. My protection is right action. My weapons are everything that exists. My strategy is one foot in front of the other. My trust is in quality. My way is the way of the tiger.
Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry, and it's time at long last for the final book of the Way of the Tiger series. And let's try to think of this one less as an ending and more as a celebration of all that has gone before. Now, let me see. Avenger has lain in the great spider's web for how many years now? Come on, where's the copyright information at the front? 2014. And book 6 was printed in 1987. So 13 plus 14 is 27 years. So, if it feels like Avenger has been trapped in the spider's web for 27 years or more, while reminiscing the events of Book 0, then that is hardly surprising. And indeed, for many years, there was a fan theory that the end of Book 6 was supposed to be bad karma for all of the killings and murders that the hero had committed, even of evil people, over the years, or something else. And people wondered why it was left so abruptly. And also Book 6 only feels like about half a book, and it feels very short. And also, either Book 6 of Way of the Tiger or Book 5 of Bloodsword was published before it was finished. As in, a rough draft was sent to the printers, the publishers, for editing and approval, and it just got published as is, in its not quite so final form. So let's think of this as the back end of what Book 6 set up, a continuation and culmination, and hopefully it'll bring everything together, wrap everything up, and make it all feel much more complete. Although, having looked at it a bit, it's also pretty bloody dangerous. So yeah, let's just see how it goes. Now, this book does include a nice... Oh, wait. There we are, Balgin Stondrig. Left my mark on this book, tiny though it may be. Excellent. The best dwarf name I came up with circa 1998 or 1999 to be the first character name I was going to use when the game Neverwinter Nights came out. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And Balgin has become a very established presence on the internet ever since. So much so that there are impersonators. Well, not impersonators, lazy account name thieves who just think, oh yeah, that looks good, I'll use that. Without thinking, hey, that's actually belongs to someone else and they're using it. You bastard. Fuck off, kill yourself. You know. Anyway, now that we got the early video swearing out of the way to try and prevent any sort of YouTube advert fest of kill your computer with excessive adverts, let's enjoy the introduction. Now, I'm tempted to skip over this and go straight to the adventure, but it's a bit of a special one. And not only does it recap the series, but also, and this is an interesting part as a series recap, gives us an impression as to what meant what to whoever was writing the recap, what was important, what they want us to remember, what they may dwell on in the adventure to come. And of course, up to the Ninja no Chigiri, it's the standard introduction from Book 1, as has been a series staple so far. Also, at this point, I can't compare the new books to the old books because there is no old Book 7. And ironically, of course, because I didn't really have access to Book 6 and never played it back in the day, for me, Book 5 felt like a fairly complete ending to the series, with the defeat of Honoric and his army and saving the city. It felt like a good ending. On the magical world of Orb, alone in a sea that the people of the Man March call endless, lies the mystical island of tranquil dreams. Many years have passed since the time when you first saw its golden shores and emerald rice meadows. A servant brought you, braving the distant leagues of the ponderous ocean, from lands to which you have never returned, except you blatantly did in Book 3. Your loyal servant laid you, an orphan, at the steps of the Temple of the Rock, praying that the monks would care for you, for she was frail and dying of a hideous curse. Monks have lived on the island for centuries, dedicated to the worship of their god Quan, he who speaks the holy words of power, supreme master of unarmed combat. They live only to help others resist the evil that infests the world. Seeing that you were alone and needed care, the monks took you in and you became an acolyte at the Temple of the Rock. Nothing was made of the strange birthmarks shaped like a crown which you carry on your thigh, though you remember that the old servant insisted that it was of mystical importance. Whenever you have asked about this, the monks bade you meditate and be patient. The most ancient and powerful of them all, Nagishi, Grand Master of the Dawn, became your foster father. He gave you guidance and training in the calm goodness of Quan, knowledge of men and their ways, and how to meditate so that your mind floats free from your body and rides the winds in search of truth. From the age of 6, however, most of your time has been spent learning the way of the tiger. Now you are a ninja, a master of the martial arts and a deadly assassin who can kill the most powerful enemies unseen and unsuspected. Like a tiger, you are strong, stealthy, agile, patient in stalking of prey, and deadly. On the Island of Plenty and in the Man March, the fabled ninja, known as the Men with No Shadow, are held in awe. The mere mention of ninja strikes fear into people's hearts, but you are one of the few who worship Quan and follow the way of the tiger. You use your skill as a bringer of death to rid the world of evildoers. At an early age you hung by the hands for hours on end from the branches of trees to strengthen your arms. You ran for miles, your light-footed speed enough to keep a 30-foot ribbon trailing above the ground. You trod tight ropes as agile as a monkey. Now you swim like a fish and leap like a tiger. You move like the whisper of the breeze and glide through the blackest night like a shade. Before he died, Naijishi taught you the ninja's covenant. I will vanish into the night, change my body to wood or stone, sink into the earth and be able to walk through walls and locked doors. I will be killed many times, yet will not die, change my face and become invisible, able to walk among men without being seen. And ironically, if you've played the Fabled Lands computer game, some of the achievement name is for being sneaky and performing thief or assassin type adventures come directly from this. Change my face and become invisible, I think, is one of them. Or I think walk through walls and locked doors possibly another one. I'd have to look at it, but anyway, there's two Way of the Tiger references in there. It was after your foster father Naijishi's death that you began to live the words of the covenant. A man came to the island, Yaemon, Grand Master of Flame. Using borrowed sorcery, he tricked the monks into believing that he was a worshipper of Quan from the greater continent. He was indeed a monk, but he worshipped Quan's twisted brother Vile, who helps the powerful to subdue the weak, and wicked men to rule fools. Yaemon slew Naijishi, no one could match him in unarmed combat, and he stole the scrolls of Ketsuin from the temple. Once more you knew the pain of loss, for you had loved Naijishi as a father. You swore an oath to Quan that day. You would avenge his death, and you were avenged, or rather he was avenged. From lands above to darkness below. The golden shores of the mystical island of tranquil dreams seem unimaginably distant from the bleak place you now inhabit buried deep in the earth. It was Glaivas, the Ranger Lord, who bore news that Yaemon of the monks of the Scarlet Mantis threatened to use the scrolls to burn your god Quan in Inferno. Okay, I'm going to do that whole sentence again. It was Glaivas, the Ranger Lord, who bore news that Yaemon of the monks of the Scarlet Mantis threatened to use the scrolls to burn your god Quan in Inferno. You set out to track him down and stop him. You gained your vengeance at Quench Heart Keep, killing Yaemon in single combat as well as assassinating Mance the Death Mage and poisoning Honoric, the Marshal of the Legion of the Sword of Doom. You escaped the malice of their evil allies to return the scrolls home to the Island of Tranquil Dreams, also known as all of Book 2. There you learned of your true family lineage as the ruling family of Earthman caste Nigh Edge, the city nearest the Rift. You journeyed there and overthrew the tyrant usurper to become the new overlord of the city. That was Book 3. Your rule brought stability to the city at a time of upheaval, but danger still lurked, and you survived an assassination attempt by the master assassin Mandrake, slaying him in the attempt. Your city was shaken by a crisis as the forces of the Rift laid siege, but you undertook a quest to gain an orb and scepter imbued with the power of your family line to help lead your people to victory. The emerald orb was placed in your left eye socket after you were badly injured overcoming the Grand Master of Shadows, giving you sight of the invisible. You returned to Earthman Caste and killed the Dark Elf Shadazar, who had led the invasion of your city from the Rift, and with the help of your general and Force Lady Gwyneth, you hurled back the spawn of the rift. This is getting into Book 5 now. This was, however, the prelude to war. You faced the combined strength of Honoric's Legion of the Sword of Doom and the forces of the Rift, who didn't really take part in the battle at all, actually, and used the power of the scepter to lead allies in the great battle that followed. You were also joined by Glaivas and other friends, including the Paladin Dore Lejeune. You were victorious, and knew a brief time of peace and contentment, but bad news soon followed. The former spy mistress Foxglove arrived in chains at the hands of the swordswoman Cassandra. They informed you that your friend Glaivas was caught in the rift. Dore Lejeune had accompanied him, but his fate was lost to the world. Without Glaivas' help in the past, Quan would have been condemned to burn in Inferno for all eternity, and so you had to go. You descended into the festering chasm of evil known as the Rift, home to the darkest creatures on Orb, with only the magical torch of Lumen to light your path. Your goal was to rescue Glaivas from the forbidden sanctuary beyond the 7th tier. You met two groups of adventurers along the way. The first are allies, Eris the Mage, Tybalt the Priest of Avatar, Tafleur the Priest of Illustra, and Vespers the Swordsman. But fortune has also thrown you together with your enemies, the chaotic followers of Anarkil, Cassandra, Chuchev, and the illusionist Form. Your groups descended inside the world worm, its maw only held open by wedging within it Cassandra's sword, which means surely she doesn't have it with her now, unless she wrenched it free and then fell with the rest of us. Because it was a magic sword. And you now find yourself trapped in the 7th tier of the Rift, far away from sunlight and hope, cocooned in Gossamer. The gargantuan form of the Black Widow, queen of the evils of the Rift, twitches on the web and scuttles towards you to bring your long and grueling journey to an abrupt end, just like the long and grueling wait of the faithful. Here we have a beautiful coloured map of the city of Ersmancast, nigh Edge. With the Rift over here, Edgeside, Temple of the All-Mother, very small. Hostels from the Edge Inn, the Temple of Time, absolutely massive. The Palace, the Barracks, the Temple of Nemesis. Shouldn't that be over here, near on this side, by the Barracks somewhere? For some reason I feel it should. Temple to Dio, the River of Beasts Inn, we've been there. The Halls of Justice, Temple of Avatar, quite small. Not as small as the Temple of the All-Mother, apparently. The Temple of Quan, we have a beautiful large garden around it. And I believe I may have shown this map at some point. The full colour poster of it, which came with Book 7, at one point during one of the videos earlier in the series. To compare it, or maybe even just this one. Oh, it's by Leo Hartus. He did loads of the Fighting Fantasy maps back in the day. You know what? I met him a few times, I think, at Fighting Fantasy Fest, and I'm not sure he's still with us, actually, but he was a great laugh. Really good company. We chatted, and yeah. Told stories of role-playing games we've been involved in the past, and it was just great. Really good company. We have some special rules for this book, which I'm going to presume is to separate it from the other books. I will probably skip over the combat rules because we've seen them all before, but let's see what else we have here. If you have not played and successfully completed Book 6, Inferno, in the Way of the Tiger series, then you begin this book with the equipment and skills listed. If you have successfully completed Book 6, then you should continue with the same character, and we have our character sheet here, with all our modifiers. I believe we might regain Inner Force and Endurance, because we're pretty shafted if we don't. We do have Chuchev's belt pouch. I'm going to put an exclamation mark there, because it will be important later on. Simply transfer all the information on your original character sheet to the one given here. You will begin with the number of shuriken you had left in Book 6. And with the exception of Book 5, we always get a full heal in between books. Oh, there we go. You continue Book 7 with any special items you may have picked up on your journey, but still lack any equipment lost, such as your grappling hook and rope, or your flash powder. I'm not aware of having... Oh, we've used our flash powder. The blood of Nil has apparently been restored to us between Book 3 and Book 6. But we don't get told that until much more recently. In the last instant before you fell into the Black Widow's web, it seems Quan heard your desperate prayers, for your endurance and inner force scores have been restored to maximum, and we're probably going to need it. I mean, we were at half health. Note that if you were tainted by the sorcery of the Amulet of Nulak, then you have a maximum of only 4 points of inner force. Do not forget to transfer all your punch, kick, and throw modifiers, and even fate modifier, to your new character sheet. You may also have learned just one of the following 2 superior skills taught by the Grand Master of the Dawn at the Temple of the Rock. And I will reiterate them just for those of you who are only joining in now for Book 7 and might have chosen to skip the first 6 books. Well, 7 books because of Book 0, but anyway. Shinren, or the Training of the Heart. Shinren is a secret knowledge passed on during several weeks in the hills of the Island of Tranquil Dreams. You have learned iron control of your emotions. You can walk over glowing coals without turning a hair, endure heat, cold, wind, rain, hunger, thirst, and pain that would send a normal person mad. Your instincts have been honed so that you may read any person like an open book, having learnt the language that the body talks, understanding what people think by observing their mannerisms and the way they breathe, the roving of their eyes and their stance. You're able to understand a complicated situation at a glance and act, seizing any opening and taking any chance that appears. Alternatively, there is Yubijutsu, or nerve striking. You have learned how to maim and kill with even quite light blows to vital nerve centers like Bruce Lee, a technique especially useful when beset by many adversaries at once or against a formidable human foe. You know the anatomy of man in fine detail, the unprotected points and nerve centers where an accurate blow can stun or even kill. And since while I have many autistic obsessions, my greatest obsession is trying to read people and empathize and understand them, which I know is something autistic people are really bad at. But the fact that I try so hard, because it's a conscious effort for me, and it's a conscious effort for other autistic people as well, that they often simply don't bother to make or make assumptions and so on. And because I'm trying so hard, it kind of offsets it a bit, but it's really stupid. It's like at character creation, I chose some kind of negative ability. I chose some kind of talent that gave me extra skill points, but a penalty to social skills, and then put those skill points back into social skills. Probably ending up a bit worse off than before. I don't know. Anyway, it might give me some other bonus as well, but who knows? I wasn't even out of the womb at the time, so... It's the kind of beginner mistake that a player might make when unfamiliar with a system, and hey, depending on how you look at it, I was either incarnating again and chose this challenge for this lifetime, or I was completely unfamiliar with life as it was my first and only time round, if you want to be really negative and cynical and believe in nothing. Right, so, in which case you wouldn't even believe I made any sort of pre-birth choice. But anyway, we get on to combat. It's all familiar. So we will skip down to ninja tools. We have already used our flash powder. We should have purchased more in book 2, when we had the opportunity to purchase 2 or 3 uses, then we could have had some for later use. The blood of Nil is a virulent poison. You had used yours long ago, but have found a replacement amongst the bizarre and otherworldly treasures hoarded by the evil usurper. Meaning, we had it with us at the start of Book 6. Now, we had no opportunities to use it in Book 6. And the blood of Nil is a very rare poison. It's an item that is typically used for special story beats in the adventure. It's not used willy-nilly, right? So when we are given the opportunity to use it, and look at this, we finally get an updated version of the illustrations of the moves. But anyway, when we get an opportunity to use the blood of Nil, we're generally only given 1 chance per book. And generally when we're given the opportunity to use it, we should. But in this final adventure, I think we should be a little more careful. It has been returned to us for some kind of special usage. And we should decide when and where it should be used. Now, for those of you not familiar with the story behind, and many of you will be, I know, the original illustration for the martial arts moves that appeared in the first 6 books. I mean, technically we might have got an updated moves picture in Book 0 as well, and in the colour reprints they give the updated picture, but basically Jamie Thomson sketched this fairly quickly, sent it into the publishers with a note that said, get an artist to do a better version of these and stick it in the relevant place in the book. And the publishers just used his sketch. So one of the authors is the uncredited artist who came up with these illustrations many years ago. And the lazy publishers didn't bother to hire an artist to redraw or paint them. The secret things that occur. We do still get the motion blur lines. They're very faint though. And that is not so clearly a chop as the fingers are not so extended. That's weird. And here we finally are. The torch of lumen on your belt remains dark, and your only light source is a pale, sickly white light from somewhere above. You can just make out the forms of your companions, allies and enemies alike, suspended like you in webbing. You see now that you are in a vast cave of onyx, and your descent into the web was halted a mere body length above the ground. Nearby, some are various other humanoid shapes of various shapes and sizes, all engulfed in gossamer, some clearly long dead. This is heading into, and in that world in which we live in, territory in which any one of those 3 instances of the word in could be removed from that sentence to vastly improve it and make it a much better piece of writing. However, for scansion and the tune it is sung to, it works perfectly well. So there is a thing where writers are supposed to attempt to avoid repetition of the same word within the same sentence. And here we not only have various and various, but also shapes and shapes. So it does feel a bit clunky, but let's overlook that for a moment. Your gem-inlaid sceptre hangs nearby in webbing. its mace-like head bearing your family emblem of a hippogriff, a golden treasure that you dare not lose to the Black Widow's lair. It is indeed the ransom we bring, although we should have just left it behind and not brought it. But maybe we're taking it with us because we don't want it to fall into anyone else's hands. You twist and strain against the gossamer cocoon and manage to free your legs, but a monstrous shape scuttles towards you across the webbing. It is the Black Widow. If you've played Book 6, Inferno, and your emerald eye was gouged out by Cassandra, mercifully that was not the case. If not, but you played Book 6, Inferno, and Cassandra fell with you into this web after being trapped at your side, or being Lady Foxglove fell into the web. I'm just going to read that again. I'm clearly not having a good morning. If not, but you played Book 6 Inferno and Foxglove fell with you into this web after either travelling at your side or being Cassandra's prisoner, we'll turn to section 56. However, if not, you notice at the periphery of your vision that your companions are desperately trying to free themselves without much success. Turn section 92. We'll remember that number 92 because we'll be sent there directly from 56. So this is taking care of business. Now, we did go to great lengths to not only have Lady Foxglove at our side throughout Book 6, but to also avoid falling prey to her enchantments. A combination that is not really possible in the new version of Book 6, and thus has not been taken into consideration here in Book 7. And a minor issue we'll run into a little bit later on, probably. "Great Queen," Foxglove calls out from where she is caught in the webbing, "I have brought you the sceptre as promised. Please free me." The Black Widow's 6 unblinking red eyes regard her for a moment, filled with an inhuman, malevolent intelligence. Then the Black Widow slashes out a leg to cut her free. Foxglove lands on all fours and takes a moment to gather herself before rising and walking over to you. When she speaks, it is loud enough for all to hear. "What can anyone do against power such as that which dwells here, Avenger?" She leans into you with a flicker of fear in her eyes and whispers, "Save me!" She scurries away past the strands of webbing to a small cave, stopping only to give you a last wistful look. To your amazement, you notice she has slipped a small onyx and diamond spider token into your hands, which we will absolutely write down on our character sheet. "My queen," she pleads, "you promised my curse would be lifted. I am your chosen. Please." A sister of Nolak, a dark elf horribly contorted into a half-spider creature, emerges from a side tunnel to grab her and drag her away, and I think this illustration has been recycled from Book 6. Most of the illustrations of this book have been recycled from earlier books in the series, but not all. Her supplications fade as she is dragged out of sight. The Black Widow clacks her forelegs on the onyx floor before turning back to you and approaching. You notice at the periphery of your vision that your remaining companions are desperately trying to free themselves without much success, and now we turn to section 92. So, it would appear Lady Foxglove has been working for the Black Widow the entire time. In Book 6, Cassandra did mention that the Black Widow has become quite enamoured of Lady Foxglove. But she is begging to be rescued, and we know that Lady Foxglove, unlike Amber Heard, is a consummate actress, and can actually weep on command, and has never been to court for beating and abusing her wife, her husband, or shitting the bed and blaming it on the dogs. Yeah, so let's go to section 92. So, it would be nice to rescue her, to offer her some chance at redemption. However, we also know that she hates us and has even tried to kill us on a few previous occasions. Your companions remain held fast, but Vespers uses his blade Manmaster in a sawing motion, bursting out from his webbing and grimly positioning himself between his friends and the Black Widow. The Black Widow pauses, 8 legs twitching, her dozen sanguineous eyes reflecting only death. Vespers cries out in defiance and strikes at the Moor that lunges forward at him in a sudden rush. Vesper's head is bitten clean off, and his sword is snapped like kindling in the Black Widow's enormous mandibles. You are showered in blood. Vesper's doomed stand has brought you a moment to act, nothing more. Poor Vespers. You know, I thought Lady Foxglove got a bit of a raw deal, but he had it really rough. He has a history of foolhardiness, although when he suffers, it is usually due to the ineptitude of his companions. In this case, he had a moment of bravery, a chance to possibly redeem himself, and instead he was vanquished. I mean, what do we know of him? In Book 2, he was fighting the undead warlord when Eris the mage cast the stinking cloud, which caused him to choke and gasp and be unable to fight well and defend himself, and he was injured badly in the arm. However, we were able to give him the magic dancing sword, which he knew how to command, and as a reward, Eris gave us the Sun Star Ring. Well, more a punishment for Eris, really, to have it taken away. When we descended into the darkness in Book 6, Vespers didn't get to do much in the fight against Cassandra Chuchevan Form. I can't remember who he fought or what he did. He wasn't charmed. He could have been charmed and forced to be bodyguard to Foxglove and not take part in the fighting. Instead, he did get to fight, as he wasn't enchanted. But let's look at our options here. We could call out a prayer to Quan for deliverance, and we may indeed need to do so. You also notice we have dice on the corner of pages, similar to the Wizard Books Fighting Fantasy reprints, where you could just flip through the book and get a random dice roll. Not that random necessarily after the spine began to decrease that much, or when you got familiar with finding where some good rolls were, but anyway. We could wriggle the blood of Nil free from our clothes, catch it between our feet and launch it into the Black Widow's gaping maw. Command the torch of lumen on our belt to flare with light. We could flick the onyx spider token into the Black Widow's gaping maw if we have it and wish to see if it is used for this purpose. Or use feigned death as a skill, which we do not have. So, of the 5 options, only 4 are viable. Calling out a prayer to Quan for deliverance seems like a last resort, although it may avoid whatever dangers any wrong choices here may make. However, in Book 2, when we had the opportunity to call out to Quan for deliverance, it would not work in locations far deep beneath the ground in the presence of great evil. Although then our need was less dire than it is now. Is the Black Widow literally Nulak? I think she is. Rather than the greatest of Nulak's worshippers. We have an opportunity to use the blood of Nil, and we are right at the beginning of the book. The blood of Nil is normally used for climactic encounters later in a book. Using it on Honoric is towards the very tail end of Book 1. Using it in Book 2... again, is on the island of, what's it called? One moment. The Isle of Plenty. Somewhere around on the eastern side of the isle, there are 2 different encounters for which it must be used. Whatever happens, we don't want to end up like Vespers. She can't just kill a man with one blow, but she can do it so the blood sprays all around the room, so that is extremely forceful. We don't want to get hit. We've only just had the blood of Nil returned to us, with special emphasis on it being granted right at the beginning of the book, which makes it available for this option. And generally, we don't get more than 1 chance per book, but I'm thinking, as this is the final book, and it's such an iconic item, we should not use it now, and should try to save it for later. If this is our get out of jail free card, it's probably not the most ideal way to do it. And the Onyx Spider token, which Foxglove gave to us, was only given to us because we looked after her in Book 6. And Lady Foxglove is definitely a bit of a double-edged sword. She is as often against us as she is in our favour. Alternatively, we could look at the most single obvious thing here, which is that we are a tiny little person trapped in the web of a great big giant spider in caves deep beneath the ground. And we have a magical torch that can glow in the darkness, like a certain vial of elven magical liquid in the possession of a famous hobbit trapped in the lair of a great giant spider underground many years ago. So, like that hobbit, we may remember the vial that was given to us in a previous book, and uncertain how to utilize it, begin to incant the names of famous elven heroes from years gone by, at which point the file reacts, and, to echo the voice of Galadriel, may it be a light to you when all other lights are gone. I think we shall use the Torch of Lumen, which we've had since the beginning of the previous book. And unlike Book 0, this book has no bookmarks. I don't want to create bookmarks instantly with AI. And it's interesting that that has now been added as an option. Whereas if I'd opened this with the previous version of the program, I could create bookmarks manually. Right. Here we are, 210. The Black Widow. Yeah, about that. The Black Widow rears up in front of you. Chelicere, clacking in her mouth to form a horrible sound akin to human speech. It reverberates around the chamber. Avenger! The Black Widow closes in on you, close enough for you to see the venom sac hanging in her mouth, and to smell the putrid stench of her breath. You move a hand slightly to touch the alabaster cone atop the ebony rod that constitutes the Torch of Lumen. It flares as bright as sunlight. The light is so bright that you have to look away with your eyes closed, but you sense the Black Widow rearing back in shock. Still, she lashes out blindly with a screech. One of her flailing limbs catches you on your left leg with great force. Lose 4 endurance points. Ow. And we're not done yet. Note on your character sheet that you must apply -2 to your kick modifier and may not use the acrobatics skill if you have it until your leg is healed. I will note this down here. The acrobatic skill does seem to be heavily favoured throughout the series. If I were to play through again, what skill would I drop for acrobatics? I might just about be able to get away without immunity to poisons, but there are a few times when it is an absolute lifesaver. All of the other skills have been pretty necessary. I could probably swap Shinren for Yubijutsu on a second playthrough as well. Although, if I manage to complete this book, do the whole series, I'll be able to say, job's done. Now I can rest and take great pride in my achievement. Until... Here we go. You're in a desperate need of salvation against this great embodiment of evil. If you've played Book 3, Usurper, I have, and were pursued by every man the Golem, I absolutely was not. If you were not pursued by every man, but played Book 5, Warbringer, and allied yourself with the Spires of Foreshadowing, again, I did not. Otherwise, if you've played Book 0, Ninja, Book 1, Avenger, or Book 3, Usurper, and have encountered the Spirit Tiger of Quan, I absolutely have. Otherwise, we are in a more dire situation and must pray, or try and drop the blood of Nil into the Great Spider's maw. But, as we have met the Spirit Tiger in meditation previously, a tremendous roar fills the cavern, a sound of hope echoing in this pit of despair. A sinuous form takes shape above the ground before you. It is a flawless tiger, its fur as white as fresh snow, its eyes pools of ice blue. It is the Spirit Tiger of Quan. Quan has not abandoned his most devoted child, but his aid comes at a price. Deduct 1 point of inner force as the Spirit Tiger draws upon your spiritual strength to enable it to materialize here, in the plane of life and so far from the lands of Quan's worship. Look, if a point of inner force is all it takes to keep me alive, I am incredibly grateful. Especially as all of our inner force was restored, so it doesn't say if you have a point of inner force to feed the Spirit Tiger, It's just, no, it's guaranteed to happen. The Spirit Tiger springs at the Black Widow, claws raking and teeth slicing into the black monstrosity, ichor spraying out. The Black Widow dwarfs the Spirit Tiger, though, and this is her domain, and so you doubt how long the Servant of Quan will be able to help you. Already, the Tiger's flanks are bloody from the strikes of the taloned legs of the Black Widow. With your enemies distracted, you now have a chance to escape if you can. We do not have the escapology skill. We could use a point of inner force to burst free. We can use the Onyx Spygate token to try and free ourselves if we wish to see if it's used for this purpose, or use a shuriken or garrote to try and cut through the webbing. I'm going to use the Onyx Spider token. Foxglove gave it to me, clearly for use in this situation, and it probably is not supposed to be used directly against the Black Widow herself, because why would the Black Widow give Foxglove the tool of her own destruction? Obviously this may not be given by the Black Widow, but why would she let her keep it? Foxglove is sneaky and can hide things, but I'm going to use the Onyx Spider token now and see how it may be of assistance. You touch the onyx spider token to the webbing and it grows warm in your hand. Your bonds loosen and sag under its influence. Excellent. You free yourself from the webbing as the Black Widow fights on. To your right, Eris the wizard has cast a spell which radiates fire from his hands, burning through his webbing and that of his friend Taflur, and together they pull Tybalt free. The fire of Eris's magic spreads against his design and frees Cassandra and Chuchev, the latter of whom cuts free Form with his sword. You start forward and grab the scepter from where it hangs in gossamer before you. The Black Widow scuttles as she fights, forcing the group to scatter, and they flee for the escape tunnels nearest to them. Taflur and Tybalt have escaped on the far side of the Black Widow, and to follow them would be suicidal through the battle that rages in the middle of the chamber. Blah! Taflur and Tybalt have escaped on the far side of the Black Widow, and to follow them would be suicidal through the battle that rages in the middle of the chamber. This series has some great tongue twisters, by the way. We could rush after Eris down a tunnel further ahead. He is the chaotic and unpredictable mage. Rush down the nearest tunnel after Cassandra. Rush for the side cave mouth with a low ceiling after Chuchev and Form. Now, with the great spider scuttling about and her legs thrashing around, we know that we can suffer significant injury if struck by them. Eris is chaotic and unpredictable. Chuchev and Form hate us, but they are deceptive and conniving. Whereas Cassandra is more open in her hatred of us. She has a harder time hiding it. And we know that we can trust her to be hostile. Additionally, she saved our life through the use of her magic sword at the end of Book 6, possibly sacrificing the sword, although she may have it with her because the author might have forgotten that she left it behind, or decided she pulled it free at the last moment and then plummeted once everyone was inside. And she waited for us to come through, possibly because we had the scepter, but also because she may have desired our assistance in here. So I'm going to follow the Lady Cassandra, and I hope I don't regret it. Here we go. I might add some bookmarks in between sessions. You race downhill along an increasingly narrow passage, pursuing Cassandra as the din of battle in the Black Widow's lair recedes. You are painfully aware that the schemes of the Black Widow have led you to this nightmare place far below ground, and all the denizens of the rift now seek to prevent you finding Glaivas and escaping. You make the torch of lumen at your belt illuminate the darkness, and Cassandra whirls around to spring panther-like, her eyes assessing you. You see that she is unarmed, her sword lost in the Worldworm during your descent to this tier of the rift. Yeah, I was thinking Worldworm, I was thinking Wrath of the Righteous. So we must make a fate roll. Our first roll of this playthrough. I don't want to jinx it. So I shouldn't have said that, should I? Anyway, look, here we go. 2 dice. A 7. Excellent. And with our +1 fate modifier, we are lucky on a 6 or more. Fate does indeed smile on me. That is excellent, because I don't know how badly things would have gone if it did not. Cassandra is not a friend after all. Anything but. I have no desire to help you, Avenger, Cassandra says, but I do have a strong desire to be free of this hole where the Black Widow will take all the spoils. I propose a truce until we reach the upper levels. You comment that you do not trust her. I have no sword, she says, spreading her hands wide. Yes, I admit I could use your help to fight my way free until I meet up with Form and Chuchev, but in return, I can give you knowledge of the rift. I know secret ways to avoid the greatest dangers, and I can take you to free Glaivas. Now, back in Book 6, it was Cassandra who warned us against walking into an open death trap, although she only did so because her and her companions lay in the other path, with their own ambush in place. You cannot avoid each other in this long passageway, and so you tell Cassandra to lead the way whilst you ponder her offer. The tunnel continues to wend downwards as if drawing you to Orb's deep, dark core. And yes, this book is very archetypal in the way that it is. It's a big culmination. It is epic in the way that it uses grand scenes and archetypes, at least so far. So let us continue walking behind her, because we do not trust her, and to be fair, honest, she probably doesn't trust us, although she knows that we are more honourable than her. It's just her untrusting nature, whereas in our case, it's not an untrusting nature, it's knowledge of her prior behaviour. You continue along the long, narrow passageway, with Cassandra creeping ahead to lead the way. The torch of Lumen casts a cold white luminescence, as ascetic as the rocks closing in around you. You both tense as the passageway opens out to a broadly circular chamber with an oval stone table in its centre, upon which stands a figure in black velvet robes. The far wall is covered by a bioluminescent sort of white moss. In the rock ceiling there is a long shaft above you to an upper level. The figure pulls back her hood a little to reveal her face. It is Foxglove, the former spy mistress of your city, who came as Cassandra's prisoner to tell you about Glaivas' capture. "I was waiting for you, Avenger," she says. "And you are here too, Cassandra. I have a score to settle with you." Now these choices are interesting. If you are carrying an Onyx Spider token, which indeed we are. Otherwise, if you played Book 6 Inferno and Foxglove had Foxglove exiled, if you played Book 6 Inferno and Foxglove was killed, if you played Book 6 Inferno and Foxglove otherwise journeyed separately from you, or you did not play Inferno. So it's the Onyx Spider token. We got to keep it. It was not removed. If it was removed on use, none of these options would be correct. But since we are carrying the Onyx Spider token, here we are. We used it to heaten and soften the webs and make our escape. You ask Foxglove what happened after the Sister of Nolak took her away. Before she answers, she gives a command and the Onyx Spider token in your hand grows hot. You are forced to drop it and remove it from your character sheet. Foxglove steps down from the stone table. "I waited until I was out of the Black Widow's gaze before I killed the Sister of Nolak and waited to see if you would come, Avenger." On the ground behind her you can make out a twisted shape, a charred carcass loosely resembling an arachnid, presumably charred through the use of another Onyx Spider charm. However, I have a suspicion that the corpse on the ground behind her, the twisted, unrecognizable, resembling an arachnid, I have a slight suspicion that the corpse on the ground behind her could be Foxglove, and this could be an imposter using sorcery to imitate her. "Join me," Foxglove continues, "and together we can escape this place. But not you, Cassandra. You will die for your mistreatment of me." Cassandra crouches, ready to fight. "Beware, Avenger. Whatever you think of me, that thing is no longer Foxglove. The real Foxglove could not fight her way past a blind goblin. Never mind a Sister of Nolak." "Cassandra will say anything to save herself," Foxglove says to you. "This is our chance for vengeance against her. Remember, she trapped your friend Glaivas in this place." "No, I am your only hope to find him." Fortunately, we have the skill of Shinren, and are immediately directed to its use. Otherwise, we could choose to side with Foxglove against Cassandra, side with Cassandra against Foxglove, or just stand back and watch the cat fight between the woman who knows how to fight and the woman who's never had to fight anything. Presumably a fairly short... Well, it depends how much the experienced warrior wants to make it last and pummel the living shit out of her. And From your training of the heart, you can tell that there is something not quite right about Foxglove. She looks the same as before and sounds the same, but there is almost something of a hollowness in her mannerisms. For all your skill in Shinren, even you cannot quite read if she is being true or not, which is unusual in itself. We were able to read even Foxglove before. If you were enchanted by Foxglove, your Shinren training allows you to ignore its effects at this time, so the enchantment that would have forced us to side with Foxglove in every situation is no longer in effect. Plus, we managed to avoid it by playing wisely in the original version of the book, rather than the new version where it would have been unavoidable, and then we would have probably been slain in the fight at the end. But no, there has to be a way to get through that fight without getting the auto-kill, because otherwise why would it even be brought up here? So we could stand to the side and let them face each other. No, we'll join Cassandra against Foxglove because there's something not quite right here. 86. Here we go. Foxglove steps backwards and shouts a command in a language you do not recognize. The bioluminescent white moss-like substance on the wall behind her reveals its true nature. It is not moss, but thousands of tiny spiders, suddenly animated. They twitch and swarm across the floor towards you. You leap onto the stone table, and Cassandra follows suit, knocking aside Foxglove as she does so. Oh, we've gone a little too far. I'm going to come... That is not Foxglove. Foxglove is jostled and her black hood slips to reveal a spider on the back of her head, legs flexing, its swollen black abdomen resting against Foxglove's skull. It looks like an exact miniature of the Black Widow. "It's the Black Widow's spawn!" Cassandra shouts. "We must kill it!" Foxglove's appearance changes as the spider exerts control over her. Her eyes turn white and her skin goes as pallid as a corpse. Meanwhile, you leap aside as thousands of small white spiders swarm around you. This is where it feels like Foxglove gets a really raw deal, right? It's only through the later revelation that this book is a showdown between representatives of the gods, and she is the representative of Nemesis in this showdown, essentially, as all other representatives of Nemesis have been killed or banished or whatever, destroyed, and cannot take part in this conflict. So she is the arch enemy, essentially. However, this is not even remotely Foxglove. Foxglove had cheekbones, and there are hints of cheekbones here, but she had broad cheekbones, a wider jawline, and yeah, the hair frames her face a bit and makes it look slender. But this is like a fucking horse-faced mongfish of doom. This is clearly done by an artist unfamiliar with the character or not interested in trying to bring about a suitable depiction. This isn't even remotely what she used to wear before, either. Even if we had disguised her as a dark elf. Maybe, if the spider beings had dressed her before placing the spider on the back of her head. Thing is, the spider priestess is probably dead on the floor behind us, and we want to try and save her. This looks like a ghost, like a banshee. We can smash the scepter into the Black Widow's spawn. Now, we have had opportunities to use the scepter as a weapon before in Book 5, and it was the hits hard but misses a lot weapon. As in the, you can use it if you want to, it seems like a good idea, but you probably should not. We could launch a leaping tiger kick to incapacitate Foxglove, or try to reason with Foxglove to fight its influence. Now, Foxglove does have a strong psyche. She has a strong ego. But we do know that the puppet master spiders of the Black Widow can just take over control of a person very, very completely. And while she may be able to resist a little, I think we're just going to have to try and knock her out. The best way to deal with the spider would be if she's, if the conscious body is not actively resisting. Nearly there. Foxglove defense against your kick is 6. However, we have a -2 modifier to our kick score, so we're kicking at +0. We get a 5, which is unfortunate. If you fail, you are bitten by the white spiders and lose 1 die of endurance. If you have immunity to poisons, you may half the damage taken, rounding up any fraction. Okay. 3 whole points of ouchies. If you succeed in knocking out Foxglove, you slam the ball of your foot into her chin, sending her back against the cavern wall, where ichor from the squash spawn of the Black Widow drips down the rock. I would have really liked to squash the spawn of the Black Widow on her head, because it may be relevant later on. You hear a screech of anger from the far end of the tunnel where you escaped the Black Widow's lair. You and Cassandra waste no time against the swarm of white spiders and pull yourself up to a long shaft above. I think every option leads to us climbing up. And it seems like Foxglove is just dead, whatever happens. At least we didn't kick her in the face, right? So she could technically still be alive, but controlled by the spider. If we're going to save her, it would appear that we've either just missed our chance or now is not the time. From flicking through the book, prior to playing it, some time ago, many months ago now, I'm aware that there does seem to be opportunities to meet Cassandra later on. There seems to be an opportunity to meet with Foxglove later on. So my now is not the time assessment does seem to be very fair. For now, let's clamber out of here before the swarm of spiders devours us completely and fills us up with poison so that we are incapable of living. You pull yourself up to a high ledge and heave a loose basalt boulder over to... You pull yourself up to a high ledge and heave a loose basalt boulder over to block the shaft so the small spiders cannot get through. Cassandra stands beside you Cassandra stands beside you, overlooking a massive underground lake lit by an iridescent green from under the water. She regards you coolly. I have heard of this place. It is known as the Reaper's Plunge, Avenger, a swim that you would find most unpleasant. The air smells pungent and occasionally the water bubbles. You surmise that volcanic gas has turned the water here sulphuric. No doubt the acid would melt flesh from bone. There is a series of rocky protrusions above the water to your left, almost like steps that lead to a stone walkway by the lake. Alternatively, there is a cave to your right that leads on into the darkness. I'm heading left, Avenger, Cassandra declares, hands on hips, and if you want to save Glaivas, you should too. Now, we know we can't trust her, but we do have the skill of Shinran, and it's only 10 sections away. And again, it's not a choice to use it. We just understand. We know instinctively. You read the subtle emotions across the warrior woman's face and posture. You sense from her gaze upon your emerald eye and gem-inlaid scepter that she wishes to keep you close in the hope that you will run into difficulty and she can then take the artifacts from you. You sense no deception on her part about Glaivas, however, although you cannot tell if she is saying the whole truth. We will join her left along the makeshift steps, rather than hastening right along the tunnel and abandoning her. Because her own preservation is in her best interest right now. Cassandra leaps carefully along the stone protrusions, mindful of the lake of acid below. You do likewise and make it to a stone walkway which leads along an S-shaped passageway with a high ceiling. You both continue for some time before Cassandra comes to an abrupt halt. By the light of the torch of lumen, you see broken stones across the ground and a humanoid skeleton resting against a wall. The ceiling contains numerous sharp rocks jutting out precariously, ready to fall. "After you, Avenger," she says with a sweep of her arm. "Unlike you, I am in no rush to save anyone." We do have the skill of picking locks, detecting and disarming traps, and we'll absolutely utilize it in this location. There's another foxglove picture, which look, this picture is from book 6, where she's beseeching Avenger at the camp, but they've used it here and she looks alive and well there. So I don't know if we've missed an opportunity to meet her alive and well, or not. You examine the rocks to find pressure points likely to set off further cascades and step carefully across the ground to avoid them. Once on the other side, you turn and watch Cassandra tracing your steps. She makes it across, a sheen of sweat glistening on her brow. She gives you a baleful sideways glance before leading the way further along the tunnel. She is grateful she might not have made it through there without our aid. The winding passageway opens out into a huge vaulted chamber supported by pillars that disappeared up beyond the light cast from a torch of lumen. There were once torches affixed to the pillars, but they have long since burnt away to charred stumps. Numerous archways form exits that lead on into the darkness. You see a human skeleton in the hall, smashed to pieces, aside a broken sword-shaped amulet. Further away, you can just make out a glittering sword lying half-covered in dust. Cassandra races in on the sword, and when she grabs it, you see a blue spark. She suddenly recoils, wringing her hand. "A weapon blessed by a paladin," she sneers. "Truly the gods mock me." You have no problem touching the sword and inspect it. You do not recognize it as that belonging to your friend Doré Lejeune, but cannot be sure. Although you eschew using weapons, it seems a shame to leave such a holy artifact in this place of evil, so you strap it to your back, add the paladin's sword to your character sheet, and those quillons are ridiculously large, making it look more like a dagger. You snap into a combat stance as a tall, hulking fiend steps out from the darkness, white and hairless, with spikes adorning its exoskeleton. 2 leathery wings on its back twitch in anticipation. That is the only warning before it grabs Cassandra in a bear hug to drive its spikes into her. She kicks out and drives her head backwards into its dagger-like teeth, and with a roar of pain it hurls her against a pillar. It then charges in on you. We can use the Iron Fist punch, a winged horse kick with our penalty to kicking, or a dragon's tail throw. A hulking fiend may not be too susceptible to throwing, and you know what? I think I'll be punching and kicking into the next episode, because this is a reasonably good place to leave it. And now I can start composing the introduction. There we have it. Our first episode is down. I hope you all enjoy the playthrough so far. Let me know what you think. I can let you know that whatever option we would have chosen to try and escape the Great Spider Queen, we would have suffered some kind of injury, which would have disabled our ability to punch, disabled our ability to kick, just ruined one modifier or another, and disabled abilities until healing. And we will be told when we can heal from the damage she has done. For now, though, I'm going to end this episode here. I hope you've all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the very next episode. But until then, remember, we're all ninjas.